quite commonly. This is a little different. I'm just going to be looking for show of hands, very informal, helps us get a better sense of some of the issues, gives you all a chance to input, because sometimes at microphones and even with Twitter, it's not possible for everyone's voice to be heard, so this is a good chance for it. So the first questions are about transportation. First question is, how many of you got here by transit? Okay, how many of you got here by walking? All right. How many got here by bicycle? Oh, pretty good for November night. I am impressed. And how many drove here? By yourself or with other people? Okay. How many of you rollerbladed, skateboard? Okay, pogo sticks. Did I miss anything? No. So, how many of you had an annoying transportation moment in the last week? Sorry. Is the microphone okay? Can you even hear me okay? How many of you had an annoying transportation moment in the last week? Okay, can I hear a couple of those? Just, what was it?
I was riding my bike and there were leaves and I wiped out.
Oh, wiped out leaves on a bike. Yep.
Cyclists on sidewalks.
Cyclists on sidewalk. I'll take
Same thing.
Same, another side. How many of you have had cyclists on sidewalk problems? Okay, cyclists in the crowd, although I know you're all good cyclists, but other annoying transportation.
Number 5 bus or Robbins Street, I always go the same route as I used to, and I didn't realize that until I got completely lost and the big thoroughfare in the morning. And I
Okay, I'm sorry, but not everyone can hear you, and I'll just summarize and then we can go through it in the questions and answers. Number 5 bus, not on the same route, didn't know, late for meeting. How many people have had that problem? Okay, I got from the classes too, so I got a good sense of that. Any other last transportation? Yeah.
The number 5 bus requires that we need to get downtown, that we have to do a great deal of walking.
Okay, number 5 bus, needing to walk or as a result of the reroute. Okay, any last ones that are not already been done? Sorry, I just need one of you, maybe the woman in the orange jacket. Okay, so number 5 bus. Does anyone have another one that's not number 5? Not that I don't want to hear them, but yeah, okay. Which intersection?
just coming here tonight, I treat the cars coming back in the start, and bright lights, and we're gonna have 2 cars on different sides coming up.
Okay, so Nelson and Jervis, since 1968, has seen accidents of a similar nature. So we are going to have a chance for question and answers, and we also have clipboards and other things, so hold on to your transportation thoughts. We're going to move to housing thoughts. How many of you do not live in the West End? Okay. So of those of you that live in the West End, how many of you own the housing that you're living in? Okay, and of the owners, how many of you have moved in the last year? Only owners. So 1, okay? I'm still coming through, okay. How many of you are renters? And of the renters, how many of you have moved in the last 2 years? Okay, significantly more. Okay. Can I get a couple of the renters to tell me why you moved in the last 2 years? Renters only. Any takers? Yeah, shout it out.
Well, I'm a renter, but I live in the co-op, and the problem with co-op recently has been the downgrading of subsidy programs.
Okay, so trouble with downgrading of subsidy, but did that force you to have to move?
Forced me to put myself on a waiting list, which could be several years, and also having an increase of $600 in housing costs.
Okay, so threat, very imminent threat of having to move. I had someone, Christine, you've moved in the last 2 years? Okay. Yep. Yep. Are you a renter in English Bay? An owner in English Bay? A renter in English Bay, so,
You know, it's a bit better now, summer's over, but you know, can be here in the morning.
okay, so that, for those that can't hear, someone who just moved back to BC relatively recently, renting near English Bay, and the noise level in the summertime is quite unbearable. And now still unbearable. Okay. Is it live now? It's live now, thank you. Okay, next section, and hold your housing thoughts because we do want to hear them in questions and answers as well. How many of you have had a new development in your block in the last 2 years? Okay. Sorry, and of those living in the West End, sorry, how many of those living in the West End have had a new development in the last 2 years? Okay, okay. How many of you have had to leave the West End to buy something like a good or a service? Had to leave, could not meet your needs in the West End? Can I get an example of what you had? You have no obligation to tell us if you don't want to. Sorry, I feel like I'm putting you on the spot now. But anyone want to share what?
I moved about 2.5 years ago to the West End. I still do banking, medical, dental, variety of services, preference for shopping and so on outside the area.
Okay, so relatively new resident, 2.5 years,
2.5 years.
and still has lots of connections outside the West, banking, medical, other things. Anyone else? Furniture, had to leave the West End to buy furniture? Hardware outside of the West End? Movie theater outside of the West End, yes. Way at the back?
Sorry?
Bookstore outside of the West End. Groceries at 4 in the morning outside the West End. Okay, how many of you, sorry, is there one more that I missed down in the front? Here, yeah, sorry. Doctor's appointment, okay. Public spaces, how many of you have a favorite neighborhood public space, indoors or outdoors, in the West End? Well, I'm surprised it's not all of you, but what are some of them? Don? Stanley Park, West End Community Center, Community Center,
Cole Harbour Dog Park.
Cole Harbour Dog Park,
Heritage Square. Heritage Square.
Heritage Square, former movie theater, well, public space, like somewhere that you can go to without having to pay. So it's library, community center. The Laughing People, okay. Any, yeah. Community garden at Davy and Burrard, yep. Any other folks? Yeah, wait. St. Paul's Hospital, yeah. Seawall. Anyone else have any last? Yeah. Mole Hill Community Garden. Gordon Neighborhood House. Farmers Market, yes, I live right near Trout Lake, so I understand how important those are in communities. Okay, last round of questions. How many of you have been to a meeting that elected officials have been at before? Okay, so a good number. How many of you knew or now know that you have an elected official living in your neighborhood? Okay, that's pretty good. I'm impressed by that. How many of you know at least one person on your block who is not a family member or roommate? At least one. How many of you know 2 people on your block? 3 people? 4? 5? 6? 7? Okay, so that's good. You guys are pretty connected in community. There's a great Vancouver Foundation research document that says that you are actually in the minority, although you're more likely to come out to a meeting like this, but that about 70% of people living in Vancouver don't even know one other person living on their block. So congratulations for being the engaged people. Okay, so we're going to give you a chance right now to get to know at least 2 more of your neighbors. We want you to turn around, and you're probably sitting with people you know, so to try and find at least 2 people that you didn't know and let them know what you're passionate about in the West End. Okay? We'll give you like 2 or 3 minutes to do that.